Welcome to Bussing, Mommy, and LollieTasking. I am your host, Dr. Lola Day, a wife, mom of three, physician, entrepreneur, and also a productivity and work-life strategist. I invite you to join me and other amazing women as we chat about our passion, work, businesses, other topics, and how we seem to have it all together, balancing motherhood and work. I hope by the end of this conversation, you realize you can do it too. With some planning, a little bit of balance, and a dash of determination. This is LollieTasking. Welcome to another inspiring episode of LollieTasking. I am your host, Dr. Lola Day. On today's show, I have the amazing, the fantastic, the wonderful Dr. Chinasa Elue. She's an associate professor, a professional speaker, executive leadership, life coach, and CEO and founder of True Titans Consulting Group, which is a professional development and life coaching firm that supports professionals in navigating difficult career transition. I'm about to say professional women, but I know you do everybody, and obtaining a better work-life balance. Dr. Elue is also the founder of Your Brand, Your Genius Academy and serves as a business strategist and coach to academics and higher education professionals who are looking to package their genius, girl, yes, and launch a profitable business based on their expertise. Dr. Elue lives in Atlanta with her husband, and she has two beautiful children. This one I can attest to. Like, she got good genes. Those kids are amazing. And best of all, she's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, y'all. She's my friend.
Hey.
It is my absolute pleasure to welcome the amazing, the fantastic Dr. Chi.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Dr. Chi. So it's been a interesting 2020, as you all know, and some of us have been working from home. Some of us have been in the office or hospital, like me. But nevertheless, 2020 was not normal, right? And one thing about January, especially with this new vaccine that is now out, is that we can reset. We can reset 2021 and we can plan and level up for 2021, right? Because the way I see 2020, I was like, listen, 2020 was a first rest, a first refocus, a first recharge. We all probably needed it, right? But
Absolutely.
2021, we got to get it on. So I was like, why not start 2021 with one of the best begging guests to just help professional women level up? Okay. Who else can I call? I was looking through my Rolodex here. I was like, okay, let me see who can help with professionalism, who can help with mom life, who can help with business life. She's just everything all packaged together. So before we get into our question, I want people to know more about you, Dr. Chi, and your journey into finding your purpose in what you're doing right now.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me here this morning to chat with your guest. My journey has been very interesting to say the least. In my professional life, I'm a professor in my 9 to 5 day job, right? And I do work around issues of access and equity for underserved student populations. The way I kind of transitioned into entrepreneurship was based on personal pain, right? I was in a previous institution where I feel like my expertise, my knowledge, and what I brought into the workplace were not valued. I was one of the only Black young women in my department. And as a Black woman coming in fresh out of grad school, there's certain things that school does not teach you
Mm.
before you enter into the professional world, right? And so for me,
Makes
coming into that
sense.
space, yes, come on now, because all the knowledge you get is not necessarily in those degrees or the books. You have to kind of live, you got to live it out in real life, right? And that's what happened. I got some real life experiential learning when I went to work and I started facing the microaggressions every day and racism and discrimination. And the imposter syndrome settled in heavily. And I began to doubt myself and feel like I was a fraud in that place, even though I was highly skilled, highly credentialed, came from a top research institution. But I just did not feel like I belonged in that place at all. And so in being in that space, it really impacted me negatively in terms of my mental and physical health, right? So much so I thought I was going to leave academia altogether. As the Lord would have it, there's always a way out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I began to gain some critical tools that I needed to navigate that space. And as I was looking for resources and potential coaches, I didn't see anything out here in the horizons that looked like the types of support that I needed. And so I went out and began to create it, because I know that there are spaces where professionals, specifically professional women of color, need a safe haven, a place, a person they can talk to help them navigate difficult career transitions. And so I created my company 5 years ago. We celebrated 5 years in November. Praise God, right?
Woohoo!
And I know. And so I created the company to coach women who are dealing with issues of imposter syndrome, all of the isms that I mentioned, as well as finding it really hard to balance their life. So when you're dealing with the imposter syndrome, sometimes you may tend to overwork or feel like you have to work twice as hard to prove your worth, and everything else tends to suffer. So you suffer in your work-life balance and overall productivity at the end of the day, and then it impacts your health on the back end of things. And so I began to create solutions to what I needed to see in the marketplace. Um, and I've since been in this space since 2015, and now I'm here. The business has transitioned in a lot of different ways. Life happens along the way. I became a mom and
Mhm.
also
Right.
a caretaker to parents, and that's a whole nother conversation as we
Yeah.
go on. But definitely, it's been a journey, and one that I would not change for anything in the world.
Yeah, we've been friends forever. Like I don't even need to tell those people how long we've been friends, but it's been amazing seeing your growth as a person, as a friend. And it's funny when someone like you who is so confident, right? Like y'all know, like all my friends are banging. Let me just put it out there. But someone like you that is so confident go through imposter syndrome, and a lot of people misunderstand what imposter syndrome is. They think it's a lack of self-esteem, right? Which is not it. Like you have what it takes to get there. But can you explain to people exactly what imposter syndrome is and how you were able to overcome it, or like some tips to help people overcome it? Because there may be someone listening right now that think, oh my gosh, how did I even get this job? Did they even know that I don't know what I'm doing? Even though like they're way qualified staff
Absolutely.
than, Michael over there.
Okay, call them out now. Listen, I'm going to give you an analogy, right? And this is not my personal experience right now, but think about if you were in a house and then you flipped on the light and you saw a cockroach try to scurry away, right?
Oh Lord.
Oftentimes, I know, right? That's a crazy analogy, but honestly speaking, that's a great example for imposter syndrome. We feel like the light is going to flip on, and people are going to discover that we're there, and we need to hide or dim down our lights because, again, we don't feel like we belong in that space, right? And the interesting thing with imposter syndrome is that it typically happens amongst high achieving women, right? So you can have all the degrees, all the certifications, all of the great internships, and position yourself well in your career. However, because of maybe your identity markers, whether you're black, you're a woman, whatever the case may be, you may feel like you don't necessarily belong if you're not, maybe you're a minority in that work situation and you feel like you don't belong or you have to prove yourself over and over again. As a black woman, we often hear this thing called the black tax, right? Where we feel like
Mhm.
we have to continue to add more value to prove our worth in particular spaces, right? So when imposter syndrome settles in, we honestly do not believe that we belong. Even though we come and we show up and we put on the show, internally we're suffering a lot through the experiences of what are going on in our job. And I think it also ties into how we deal with microaggressions. And
Mhm.
microaggressions, as we know it, are the daily slights and snubs that we face on the workplace. So you may have just given a really amazing presentation with the cutting edge research and all of the great facts and figures of what's going on
Spent
in your
all night
field,
working on
all
this.
night
You're
working
like,
on it.
I'm gonna kill this to show them.
Come on now. Put your baby toe into the presentation, right? But then the
Right.
crazy thing is that you may present it, but then your colleagues may come back and say, "Girl, what PowerPoint template did you use over there? That little colors were cute. That color combo was cute." but they don't mention anything about the
Mhm.
expertise that you demonstrated while you were up there, doing your presentation. And so you
Yeah.
begin to ask yourself, like, what the heck is going on here? Like, did you not
Mhm.
notice all of this genius that was on full display for you to see, right? And instead you begin to question yourself. You question your value, you question your abilities, and you really just do not feel like, okay, maybe I'm not cut out for this work based on how people are experiencing, how you're experiencing the workplace and how people are engaging and interacting with you, right? And that's something that I think what
That's
one thing that I
interesting.
found helpful, right, is that when we name a thing, because sometimes we're
Mhm.
going through life and we have experiences, but we don't know what to call them. And when you finally find the terminology, now you begin to put into place strategies for battling the different issues you're facing, right?
That is very interesting because yes, I know microaggression separately, and I teach that, and I know imposter syndrome separately, and I teach that. But I think I kind of knew that, but it's good to just hear you talk about how microaggression fits into imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
So you come in there like you just got that job, and you're like, oh, they're gonna know. They'll know who's coming to rep this place. And you go in there, you put your baby toe in there, like you said. I love that analogy. And then someone is talking about your PowerPoint. So to you, you're like, wait a minute, do I have an inflated ego? You start to question yourself. And I think a lot of high achieving women, we tend to be very introspective and we try to self analyze because we want to do better, right? So that's why we question ourselves. So do you agree that the more microaggression you get, the more imposter syndrome you may get, and maybe a way to help your imposter syndrome is to confront it?
So I don't want to say like microaggressions causes imposter syndrome because I think in any particular circumstance, we're always, I don't even want to declare that, but I will say that we will probably
Right,
encounter imposter syndromes in different aspects of life, right?
right.
Just because the types of people that we engage with on a daily basis will vary on a day-to-day
True
basis,
that.
right?
True that.
Um, I think the best ways to deal with imposter syndrome, one, are to call it out, right? When you notice that you're dealing with those things, you have to begin to present yourself with absolute truths about yourself, right? I don't think necessarily you're operating from an inflated ego. I just think that people maybe perhaps intimidated by what you bring into the workplace. Maybe they don't have rapport and relationship with you. Maybe they don't, or maybe they could just blatantly be racist. I mean, we are in 2020. We're seeing we are seeing
Yeah.
things come out the woodworks, right? But I think the biggest thing that we can do to support ourselves, right, is to ensure that we have a right view of who we are and operating from that vantage point, right? Not letting people's perceptions or thoughts about us or our work influence how we think about ourselves, but
Mhm.
making sure that we continue to build a supportive network for ourselves, whether it's in our workplaces or external to that. I also think that when you're battling imposter syndrome, I think it's really important for us to um, form intentional relationships with people in our jobs, right? Oftentimes, I feel like when we do want to confront and microaggressions in the workplace, right, especially as a Black woman,
Mhm.
there's all these tropes that come along with being Black in the workplace, and specifically for
Right.
women. We don't want to be deemed the angry Black woman when we begin to
True.
confront the issues that are going on, right? But and me being passionate to just to let you know that what you did was offensive or egregious in terms of how you're dealing with me. If you came, some people have shared with me in times people come and just casually touch their hair like their pet dog on the corner, right? Or just making references about their body or the way they dress and things like that, or their hair
Mhm.
types, right? And we as women, especially women of color, we're eccentric. We are beautiful and majestic in a lot of different ways, right? And
Wyndham.
so
Wyndham.
and you know that when we come into spaces, yes, we know we came to bring the heat today. Okay, we
Right.
don't even need you to affirm that. We know we're bad. Okay, but what we don't want is for you to now begin to feel like you have the ability to push into our personal space or touch or make comments about our body. That is a very
Right.
sacred aspect of our lives, right? And so I think when we find situations like that begin to happen, especially when microaggressive behavior and more so, I don't want to, dare I say, abusive behavior in that sense, where people are touching you or harassing behavior, right?
Mhm.
You document things, you confront them head on. You don't sit there in silence and die saying you want to get ahead in your career and you'll just swallow the offense. No, we have to be strategic about how we choose to confront different issues in the workplace, but don't be afraid. Don't die in silence because you
Right.
want to get ahead. It'll hurt you more in the long run if you don't deal with it now, for
I
sure.
love that you mentioned strategy, and it's something that I've been talking to people about lately. That a lot of us, it's important for us to think through, right? Sometimes you need to confront it immediately, right? But sometimes you may need to just think through it, maybe talk to a coach like, Coach Chi or somebody and be like, listen, I'm going through this. How do you think I should handle it, right? There are some microaggressions that, like Dr. Chi said, are racist, right? And there are some where they literally are just clueless. They have no hurt feelings, and I have a lot of friends that I am now the black muse. I literally have to be like, girl, we don't do that. They're like, oh, I have given some of my white friends me as a safe space, when like I don't, not all of them, because I don't feel like it's my ministry to teach everybody, but I have like two really good white friends where I feel like their heart is in the right place, but they just don't know. And this is not just for white people, right? There's some black men that are microaggressive to women too. So I don't want this to be a race thing. But sometimes people just don't know, right? So it may be a way for you to kind of educate them about the situation so they don't do it to somebody else.
Can I say though that it's important for us to have boundaries, right? So regardless of race, right? If my boundary is that I don't want you to touch me or my hair, then that's a boundary that I espouse to and that you need to honor, right?
Right,
And
right. I
I,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, and if you are uncomfortable because of my boundaries, that is absolutely not my problem, right? You need to go sit in a corner, get a therapist. You need to go pray, journal,
Fact.
meditate, and do what you
Fact.
need to do to to get over it, right? I can't make you feel comfortable at my own demise, and I think that's a big piece, right? Even when we're talking about how to continue to thrive in these spaces that we occupy, right? We have to make sure that we continue to honor ourselves and be impeccable with our word to ourselves, let our yes be yes and our no be no. And so if there are things that you desire for yourself and there are ways that you want to be treated, teach these people how to treat you, right?
Right.
And if they
Right.
don't understand, then and you're about Odabo, goodbye, I'll see you
Right.
later, right?
Like deuces.
Deuces. I'll holler at you later then.
Yeah, no. I think it's important for us to continue to learn. So, not to we can talk about imposter syndrome all day, but I think it's very important, especially for like brown women out there, and I use brown for African American as well. For brown women out there, that it's important to know that you are a queen and you deserve the space you're in, and don't let anybody's microaggression make you feel like you don't. I think that's the first thing that you need to know before you can even level up. Like you have to know who you are. Um, I talk about in my course and my private club that I have for moms. It's called the Wealthy Moms Club.
Come on
Um,
now.
okay.
Hey.
And it's interesting because it's actually after my name. Most people don't know, like Lola Day is actually a Nigerian name. That means the wealthy one is here, you know?
Come on.
So,
Speak a
but well,
thing. Go ahead.
okay. But wealth in my language is more cultural, it's more happiness, it's more balance, it's more stability. It comes with some coins and cash, don't get me wrong, but riches is different from wealth. And I tell people that all the time. You can have money and you can have riches and you may not have wealth. But I define wealth as encompassing everything. Happiness in your marriage, happiness in your family, happiness in with your people at work, having that good balance of self-worth and others and money and business. Okay. So that's where Wealthy Moms Club came about. And it's me knowing that, listen, my name is Ololade, okay? I'm a wealthy mom and I'm about to own the space. So it is important for us to create um our own fact and stop listening to other people's story. You own your story. So you
Absolutely.
have to own your story in your workplace. After you have owned your story, then you have the ability and capability to level up. Because in as much as you shrink yourself, it's going to be difficult to level up. Would you say that, Dr. Chi?
I agree. And when you said own your story, that was so powerful just to hear you say that, because I think a part of owning your story is also recognizing that there's no shame in your story, right? I think a lot of times we get caught in this trap thinking that our past is defining our futures, right? But we have the opportunities to change how we come into our future selves, right? We don't have to let our past negate how we show up. We can change our history in this moment right now. As you're hearing
Right.
my voice, you can begin to change, right? And you can honor your journey. You can honor your story. You can leverage every lesson, every hardship, every trial that you face to use it in your level up, right? And owning that absolute perfect story that you have, because it's your story to tell in your own capacity and in your own manner. And that's what absolutely makes you unique in this world. That there is no one that will ever be able to do what you do, because you have your own unique experiences that inform how you think and move in this world. And so, in a world that tries to tear us down and make us feel ashamed about what we've gone through in the past, I think we have to continue to crush that notion
Yep.
and
Yep.
step in and own everything about ourselves, the past, the present, and the future, and be unafraid and uninhibited in what we do going forward.
I I can't agree any better or more. See, y'all, this is why I brought Dr. Chi here. Uh, it reminds me of, have you, okay, you guys, I'm kind of like dating myself and what I like, but it reminds me of that movie, 8 Miles with
Okay, go
Eminem. Have you guys,
ahead.
you heard, you remember at the very end of the movie where he was doing the rap battle? And he
Hmm.
kind of told everybody, yes, I live in a trailer park. Yes, I did this. Yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. When you own your story, people can use it against you. That's another good thing about owning your story. Like, yes, my weakness is this. Yes, my strength is this. Yes, my this is this. But guess what? I'm still the bomb. Remember when he mic dropped at the end? You
Come
mic drop
on.
at the end. Like,
Yeah,
I
you're
need
still
you ladies to
standing.
mic drop at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You're still standing. You're still here. You've crossed over into a new year, and there's absolutely nothing no one can say to you or do to you, right? You've experienced that and you've walked through it and you still prevailed to be here today. And so I think that's the big piece, is that we have to be willing to continue to drop across the board because of everything that has happened, and not be worried about what that looks like going forward.
No, it's important we own our story. And, like I said, we need to just have that mic drop at the end. So after we own our story and you're ready to level up, what are some like strategic, like things that you recommend for moms or women? Most of my listeners are moms. That's why I say moms. But what are some things you recommend for women to do to help them level up in the
I think
beginning
that
of the year?
absolutely. There's some key things that we can begin to do even just right now, as we're thinking about where do we want to go in our careers and how do we want to get there, right? The vehicle in which we want to get there. I think some things that we have to do is be radically honest with ourselves about where we are in our career trajectory right now. If anything, that the whole COVID pandemic and us having to transition in terms of working from home or remotely has taught us, is the fact that a lot of our eyes have opened to the notion of, are we truly walking in our life's purpose, right? So when we're growing up, we always get asked this question, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And we hear that all the time when we're kids. But then what I've been finding in my adult life, especially as I've been conversating with clients and friends, is that that question is still very prevalent even now. People are coming to the realization that they may not necessarily be um, operating in the career or the field that they want to as grown-ups. Right now we're grown and it's like we're adulting, but this is not all it's cracked up to be. This was a sham. This is a lie. I don't know what it is that I'm doing
Girl.
right now. Okay.
Mhm.
So people are coming to that realization, and they realize that they don't want to stay in that position. They don't want to be in that place, and they want to change. And so if you are coming into the new year and looking to level up in your career, I want you to ask yourself, am I operating in my right field using my full gifts and potential here right now? And be honest with yourself. And maybe you may feel like you are, but maybe you're bored. And another question could be to you in that moment: am I seeking out opportunities that continue to challenge me to grow, so that I can continue to advance in my field? And so asking yourself these powerful questions gives you the latitude to begin to envision what it is that you want for yourself, right? Because you may think you know what you want, but until you take the time to really think intentionally about it, you may honestly just be, gliding through life and need to take the time to reflect right now.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Like, I feel like I'm agreeing with everything you're saying today. Another another thing I tell people in our course, like we have like the four pillars, right? So we have
Mhm,
like yourself, then we go to family, and then we go to vocation, which could be professional work or business work. And the
mhm,
professional work stuff, I tell them to think about that. Another thing I tell them to think about is where do I want to be like 2 years from now? Do I still want to be at this job? That's very important, right? Do I
mhm,
want to be at this job? If I don't want to be at this job, what can I do to level up myself so I could be a better candidate for the job I want to be at, like my future self, right? And then if I do want to be at this job, am I going with the flow or am I seen as an asset? When it's time to chop off people, like God forbid, if we have to lay off people, are you going to be on the chopping block because you're not bringing more to the table? You're literally just going with the wind. So I think it's an honest conversation we have to have with ourselves sometimes. And I think it's hard for us women sometimes, especially with young kids, because we're like, listen, I'm just trying to survive with these toddlers. I'm totally okay be where I'm at. And if you're fine where you are, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you just have to reassess. Like, am I fine just being where I'm at right now?
But the interesting thing about that is, I think in this current context that we're living in, we don't even have the luxury of being comfortable in our jobs anymore, right? Things are changing depending on your field. Things are changing so fast, and the unfortunate thing is that I'm prayerfully not speaking this over anybody, but we know that people are getting unemployed left and right, right? People who have been
Right.
in their fields and their careers for many years are now finding themselves without a job, right? And so I'm of this notion that you don't get ready, you stay ready. And that's kind of where I position myself, right? In a sense that what tools can you be building in your arsenal right now, right? That continue to make you more marketable. How
Right.
can you continue to network even in the midst of a global pandemic right now, just to kind of keep yourself ready for
Your
whatever.
options open. Yep.
Yeah, keep them open, because regardless of whether or not you're looking for a job, it helps you to have your professional network wide open, right? To set up coffee dates every now and then, to check in with colleagues in different organizations, or make new connections with different organizations in other fields, right? Because you just never know how that may translate. And I also believe that everyone should have a side business. I believe that everyone should not just operate from their 9 to 5 as their sole source of income. I think it is no longer an option. It is an absolute necessity that you have additional streams of income coming in.
I'm
If
gonna
one
disagree
does
with
not
you
work,
on that
you
one because
disagree?
I do, Chief,
Why?
because I am finding out that business is not for everyone.
I agree.
I think you should have another side stream of income, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a business.
I can co-sign that. I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah,
because
I agree.
I've
Entrepreneurship is
had
not for
people,
everybody.
girl, it is not for the faint of heart. We know, sure,
You know what it
girl,
is. Yeah, right.
right? And another thing I'm seeing is maybe it's because I'm coaching moms. I'm seeing moms that are getting burnt out because
Uh,
everybody is having a side business, so they feel like they have to, not because there's a purpose behind it or a reason behind it. So I coach them. You do not have to have a side business, but you definitely have to have an extra stream of income, or your husband has to have an extra stream of income, or some kind of passive income coming in just to, I'm all about, I'm a plan B through Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, like you need
You
to
like,
have
we gonna
that
make it. We're gonna make it over
girl.
here. I don't care what's going on.
Right,
Look,
right.
I got soft skills and hard skills. I can braid hair. I can cook. I can do it by any means necessary. Right? We
By
we not
any
we
means
gonna make it.
necessary. And if I have to go to McDonald's with my MD degree, you best believe
That's
I
what it
will.
is. Yes.
You
Come
know?
on.
So we have to we just have to be careful with that. And then even in the workplace, the reason why I say it's okay to be where you are, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should stay where you are. If Because some people see it as, if I want to increase in my work, especially like business people, like I have to have a project I'm doing. I have to my bandwidth is already here. So I totally agree with you when you talk about networking. Networking is one of the most easiest thing you can do, where someone, I'm not gonna call her out because you know her. Someone was telling me about, not, well, it's not really calling her out, but it's about her work, so I don't want to put her in trouble. But someone was telling me about their job and how there's this chick, and I'm not saying don't do this, y'all. Don't do this. It's not cool. She's like the most mediocre person ever, as in comes late to work, not the ideal employee whatsoever. But you know what she's good at? Networking. She has the CEO on her hand, she has the head whatever on her hand, and when it was time to fire people, she was not the one to go. You can imagine if you're that bomb.com person, which we all are, of course.
Of course.
Um, and then you also have the networking, which is really not a lot more work, right? It may just be you just being extra friendly sometimes. It doesn't necessarily mean you tell them your life history or your story. It may just be you just listening and be like, interesting. I'm not about that life of telling people about my work or my personal issues.
Yeah, because your
But,
work friends may not be your real friends at the same time, right? There's a
you
dichotomy here.
know, 90% or not, the better you see them as your work friend, the better you'll be. When you start seeing them as your real friend is when you get in trouble. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I
Oh my
agree.
gosh, I disagree with one thing today.
Oh, you're so funny. Listen, no, I think we can, I agree with this whole notion around burnout. It's not a game right now. We've been trying to juggle so much, especially this year, particularly this past year, right? When we had to take the kids out of school and, figure out how to school from home and continue to work and stay alive and caretake and do all the things right in the midst of everything that we saw unfolding on the national, international landscape. It was a lot. It was
It
a
is
lot
a
to
lot.
deal with, right? It's been a lot to deal with. And I think burnout is coming down to just being under so much pressure for so long. And so I
Hmm.
think I definitely agree with you 100% that people's bandwidth is just through the roof right now. They don't have enough capacity to take on a lot of different things, right? But I love the fact of creating passive income to help
Hmm.
support in some kind of way, even bringing your kids. It could be starting an Etsy store where you make particular types of crafts, something fun and innovative, right? But then it picks
Right.
up steam. Like, make it meaningful. I don't believe that you should burn out from a side hustle. I don't believe you should burn out from another stream of income. It should definitely be something that um, I hope you get some joy from while you're doing it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, what do you have specific things like maybe like a strategy or planning you recommend people to do, or like a template that people can do? Maybe we could send them your way to help them in strategizing the year, like a planning session.
So, as we think about how to get ready for the new year, right? I think it's important for us to take the time to reflect, right? So I have a framework I typically teach with my clients, and especially when we're talking about strategizing and getting ready for the new year, I'm really big about encouraging people to take the time to sit down and reflect on all of the different situations that have happened in the past year. How did you show up in those particular circumstances in your life that you were exposed to? And then I also try to support people in becoming more introspective in that result, right? Thinking internally about what mental processes do you need to break down for how you are able to show up on a daily basis, right? So there are a lot of things I think have been exposed this past year or so, right, about how we think and process particular events and situations, right? And there may be some things, and we hold a mirror to ourselves that are exposing the inner workings of things we may not be so proud of in this moment, right? And things that we know are not necessarily things to be ashamed of, but points of access for us to begin to think about critically what tools and resources do we need so that we can continue to thrive and show up as the best versions of ourselves as we move forward. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a different aspect of that as we transition from there is just to begin to envision what does it look like to walk in the fullness of who you're called to be, right? What does it mean to be able to show up as your fullest self? What resources, what tools, what people, what products do you need going forward that will help your life be 100% easier? And I find that when we take the time to kind of engage in this brief exercise and thinking and reflecting and then becoming more introspective and then beginning to envision what we want the year to be, it kind of positions us in the right frame of mind to begin to plan properly so that we can go after what we absolutely want. Because if I ask you today, what do you want? You may say, I want $1 million in a house on the hill and I want to retire at the age of 40, right?
Oh,
And I
sounds
want to
good.
too. That sounds great to
Oh,
me, right?
sounds good.
Sounds amazing, right? But there's some other things that internally we truly desire, right? But we haven't taken the time to really parse them out and figure out what it is that we actually want. And so I would encourage everyone to get crystal clear about what you want in this year, right? What is absolutely important for you? What is your top priorities for this year? And then you plan around that. You put into place um, different projects. You outline the projects. You build an accountability. You list out the task. You put it on your calendar, digital and
Mm-hmm.
paper. Okay.
Right,
And you
right.
schedule these things and you revisit your goals quarterly, if not every month, just to make sure you're on track, right?
Yeah.
Um, and in doing so, take the time to celebrate yourself after your small wins. We don't have to wait till the big wins happen. We can celebrate and enjoy the journey along the way. And we owe it to ourselves to do that for sure.
Listen, I like, for example, excuse me, y'all. I've been trying to get my health life in check, and this morning I did 15 jumping jacks. I like, whoo, it's better than the 10 I did yesterday. you
Okay.
know, like you laugh, but now I want to beat my 15, like just sometimes, like actually just starting. People are so caught up on the big plan, they forgot the importance of the little plans that get you to the big
Uh,
plans. But just to reflect on what you said, so Dr. Chi said you have to reflect on the past year, like what worked for you, what didn't work for you, what do you want to keep, what do you want to toss in the trash bin. You got to do a self introspection, like actually think, what do I want for myself? And then once you decide what you want for yourself, I'm going to add, why do you want that for yourself, right? So you want to have $1 million. Why do you want to have $1 million? Like why? Like once you really, really know your why, then it's easier for you to get who, what, where, like all of the question marks that you need to be able to get you to where you are. And it's also easier for you to plan for the year. Another thing I teach some of my students, I don't know if it'll be helpful for you guys, is to, once you've done your plan, go ahead. I like to automate things, yeah. Like I just love automation. So go ahead and open your calendar. You can even create a new calendar, says my goal, and use that as a tracker. And go ahead and put 3 months reminder, 12 right now, that you're still in the mind frame and process of it. That way when that reminder pops up on January 31st, you said you were going to lose 2 pounds. What's up with that? You could be like, oh, okay, yeah, let me get on it. So it's a way of self accountability for me. I personally think having an accountability, someone else that can judge you, is much more helpful, but it's a way of self accountability. I don't know if you have any other suggestions that can help them out.
I'm big on anchor words at the same time, right? Like having a guiding word for the new year, right? And
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm.
and I think we have to be intentional about speaking life into what we expect to see coming forward, right? So we know that 2020 was interesting, and that's an understatement to say the least. But as we go into
Right.
2021, we can begin to speak life in ways like never before. So maybe your anchor word for the year is that this year I'm going to operate with consistency. I know for several years that was my word of choice, right? To be consistent in how I show up and how I do things and how I move and make different things happen in my career and my business at the same time. And now, with coming out of the pandemic, I want my word to be slow. I want to slow things down, right? I want to be intentional about making sure that I'm not trying to rush through everything, right? I think people are so quick to want to go back to business as normal. Normal is gone. We just have to own it right now. What we knew to once exist will no longer exist as we transition out of the pandemic, right? And we don't even know when that will be at this point. But
Right.
I think we have to be okay with being nimble and agile in this moment and speaking words over us that will help us to continue to be flexible and give ourselves grace. And I love what you said earlier about the accountability piece, right? And even being willing to just get things started. And I think in that same vein, you have to ask yourself, not even ask yourself, but you have to tell yourself that I am getting better every day. And so when
Yeah.
you said you start the day off with yesterday you did 10 jumping jacks, today you did 15, you can continue to speak that over yourself. I'm getting better every day. The next
Yep.
day you do 20 and you keep going up from there, right? So whatever it is that you're doing, remind yourself, no matter how small you think it is, just say, I'm getting better every day. I'm getting
Right.
better every day. I'm becoming my best self every day. Because we grow every day. We grow through our
Mm-hmm.
discomfort, we grow through our pain, and every day is a chance for us to reset and show up again. Because every day is a gift, right? And we
Yep.
can change and transform with each new day.
Yeah, that I was actually going to ask you what your word of the year was, and you went ahead and told us. Mine actually, if you guys care to know, is kiss. Keep it
Kiss.
simple, sis. That is my word
Okay.
of the day.
I thought it was
Because
lovey. Okay. I was like,
uh,
okay, hey.
no, no,
Another baby on the way. Come on now.
no, we good.
No.
The shop has been closed.
Okay, I hear that.
The baby knows he's the baby. He is certified that I am the baby. I say, you are the baby.
You are. You are it. Okay.
You are it. Yeah, I have some amazing. Yeah, I can't do more than what I have right now. I know myself very well. But speaking of keeping it simple, I'm keeping it simple at where we're at. Um, but yeah, the reason why I chose keep it simple is I am a grand person, right? I love to overdo too much.com. Okay, that's my second name. And I do that because I get, even like in my business, I get so excited for my clients. I want to do this and this and that and that. And I was like, in doing all that, they end up not getting the meat of
Yeah.
what you're trying to put out there. Sometimes, if you really just keep it simple and keep life simple, you're able to achieve more. Okay. So let's use like this weight loss journey I'm on right now. Me keeping it simple is I have to work out every day. And if all I have to do is 15 jumping jacks, guess what? I worked out today. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because consistency, like you said, is what you need. In consistency comes momentum. And once you get momentum, it's like you can't even see yourself without working out anymore, right? So also in your business, and also in waking up early. People are always like, you said what? What time did you wake up? It hasn't always been easy for me waking up at 4 a.m. every morning, right? But I stayed consistent with it, and now it's kind of second nature.
I hear that for sure.
All right. I feel like, guys, I know I could talk to Dr. Chi all day, but we got to go. So, is there anything else you wanted to say that can help moms or women level up this year?
I think in excuse me. I think when we're thinking about leveling up for the year, I just want to encourage you again to just own your worth and own your value when you get out here, right? When you are operating, whether you're in your personal or professional life, just know that you are exactly where you need to be. You are right on time. You have everything you need right now to do what you're called to do, right? We don't need any other external validations from anyone else. All we have to hold on to this is the simple fact that we are more than enough and that we have everything we need to be great in this year. So I just want to encourage everyone to stay motivated, stay encouraged, own your worth, own your value, and then some. And go out here and be the game changers that I know you all are. I know you all that are listening are out here already making big moves. So keep doing the thing in 2021.
Yay! I agree with that. Again, I feel like I said I agree like 10 times today, like 100 times today. But it has been so fantastic having you, Dr. Chi. How can people, actually, before we even get to how people can get to know you, I have my final questions for you. Two questions. One, how do you balance your life being an amazing professor that you are, getting all these awards? We see it, you be getting all these awards and also having your thriving coaching business and being married to an amazing man and having your beautiful children. Like, how do you balance it all? Because people are looking at you like, I don't even know how she does it. They want to know.
I don't know how I do it, but the grace of God. I think for me, I think it's because I'm intentional um, about my time. So when we talk about balancing things, right? I don't. It's funny, I use the term work-life balance a lot, but I really believe it's work-life harmony, right? There's seasons where
Amen,
work
girl.
may, yeah, I think there's seasons where things would be a little bit more hectic, and I'm just honest with myself with what that looks like, and I have to release myself from the guilt of feeling like, oh, I'm not in the house as much as I want to, right? But I also build in support those times where I'm most busy, right? So maybe I have activities lined up with the kids or
Mm-hmm.
my extended family is nearby and they may step in and help. Their cousins are down the street, and so we quarantine with them
That's
and do life with
awesome.
them. And so
That's
that helps to
awesome.
kind of have a village around me to also assist when things get a bit hectic. But I'm also very mindful of my bandwidth and when I need to take a break and get rest. And so a big piece for me to just make sure things don't fall apart is unplugging completely. I have a hard stop of work at 5 o'clock. Like I do not play. Like don't text me, don't look for me. I'm gone. I'm logging off. I'm out here, right? I don't have my email connected to my phone. I don't want to know what's happening after hours, right? I will find out the next day. And I do
Amen.
that to set, yes, I have to set up boundaries with work. I don't want to be a worker bee working around the clock. I did not come here to suffer at all. I want balance. I want to enjoy my life. And with my word of the year being slow, I have to slow things down with how I react to a notification that pops up on the screen and actually take time to live my life in a meaningful and intentional way. And so I think just taking time to really identify what priorities are for me and then making sure that I'm able to balance it in ways that are meaningful and building boundaries around work and my home life has been very critical for me as I go forward, for sure. And I will say this too, in thinking about that, um, that a big piece for building that balance that I aspire to in my work and my home life is just making sure that I take the time to enjoy outside activities, right? Whether it's we started a home gardening over the summer, and that was amazing just to promote again this overall sense of wellness and balance that I have. Some little things that I do right now to build in self care are doing small puzzles. I haven't done puzzles since I was a kid, right? But I love the fact that doing puzzles or painting or doing crafts causes me to slow down and be intentional about the ways that I'm able to just relax and unplug, especially during the week, for sure.
That is awesome, Dr. Chi. Okay, and then the last thing is what is your favorite quote or scripture?
So I have a quote from the wonderful Miss Stacey Abrams, and
Ooh.
I know, and if you all do not know who she is, I will let you know. You know, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Lola, you know, this is
A-Town.
A-Town, peace up, A-Town down. We know where we're at, right?
Yep, 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 yep.
So she has this amazing quote. I just want to read it out loud to you. And it says, when we show up, act boldly, and practice the best ways to be wrong, we fail forward. No matter where we end up, we've grown from where we began. And I love that quote because oftentimes we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to even start. But we have to realize that failure is not truly failure. It's access to getting the situation or the circumstance or the process better because we've learned from that perceived failure. And now we have the opportunity to learn from that and go ahead and do it again and do it even better. And so I love that quote 100%.
And I think that is actually the perfect quote to start this 2021 to let us know whatever it is may have happened in 2020, we have a new floor now, we have a new state now. We could take that quote unquote failure and learn from it and just move on up and level up.
Yes, level
Yes,
up.
girl. Let's level up in 2021. How can people get a hold of you? Because I'm like listening to you and I know how to get a hold of you, and I'm still like, oh my gosh, I need to contact her.
So you can reach out to me. I'm on social media on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Chinasa Elue. That's Dr. Chinasaelue. Or you can visit my website at www.drchinasaelue.com to learn more about me and connect with me as well.
And if you're a professional woman or even wanting to start a business and you're like, listen, I feel this woman, I want to connect with her, I think she'd be great for me, please contact her. Not only is she an amazing coach, she is also an amazing person. I could tell you for a fact. And I don't be endorsing everybody, y'all.
It does mean a lot coming from you, Dr. Lola, for sure. I agree.
Ah, oh my gosh, this has been an amazing all right, this has been an amazing interview, and I thank you so very much for just gracing us with your presence, Dr. Chinasa. And for you all listening, thank you so much for joining us for another inspiring episode of LollieTasking. We will have the show notes and all of Dr. Chinasa's information in down below. Time, remember, you can do it too with some planning, a little bit of balance, and a dash of determination. This is LollieTasking. Hello, LollieTaskers. Thanks for hanging out with me on another inspiring episode of Bussing, Mommy, and LollieTasking. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. What was your favorite part? Or what was your aha moment? I would love to hear all about it. If you also have any questions or topics you'd like for me to discuss, please feel free to contact me via www.lollietasking.com. I have a question for you though. Have you subscribed already? If not, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and click that subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, and leave a great review on iTunes. These things allow other moms to see the show and connect with us as well. Till next time, this is LollieTasking. For those of you that have stayed to the end, thank you so very much. I have a little blooper for you. When I was recording with Dr. Chinasa, I would tell you what happened at the end. It literally took us literally 5 minutes just to record a 30-minute session because my son kept interrupting us. It was so funny, but this is what busing and mommy is all about. So because you stay till the end, you get to listen to these bloopers. Thank you for joining us for another inspiring episode of LollieTasking. We will have all Dr. Elue's information in the show notes below. And you can also...
Mommy, I pee pee. Mommy, I pee pee. I pee pee.
Okay. Oh my gosh, y'all. Y'all go bring
You
it back.
almost there, girl.
I just need one line.
Girl, go. I see Rose. Go. And see. Go ahead.
thank you for joining us for another inspiring episode of LollieTasking. We will have all of Dr. Cheese information in the show notes. Please don't forget to subscribe to us and also contact us via IG at LollieTasker and via Facebook at LollieTasking. Till next